Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.
You're watching South Asia Newsline and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Tuesday, the 7th of January. Delhi to go to polls on February 5, votes to be counted on February 8. Activists slam POJK, PM's calls for jihad, warn of rising extremism. And powerful earthquake rattles Nepal, kills at least 53 in Tibet. And now for all the details. The Election Commission of India on Tuesday announced that voting for the Delhi Assembly elections will be held in a single phase on February 5, with results to be declared on February 8. The term of the 70-member Delhi Assembly ends on February 23, and elections have to be held before that to constitute a new house. The election announcement comes amid an ongoing political row over the voter roll in Delhi. Announcing the schedule at a press meet, Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar said over 2 lakh youngsters will vote for the first time in this election. Announcing several initiatives to make the voting experience smooth, the poll body said arrangements would be made for the elderly and persons with disabilities to access polling booths without difficulty. It also said those above 85 years can cast their vote at home.
दिल्ली के लोग लंबे समय से इस तारीख का इंतज़ार कर रहे थे और हमें भरोसा है कि दिल्ली के लोग मिल करके फिर से दिल्ली में काम करने वाली अरविंद केजरीवाल की सरकार बनाएंगे। आम आदमी पार्टी ने चुनाव के लिए पूरी तैयारियां पहले से ही तेज कर दी थी। आज इलेक्शन की तारीख घोषित होने के बाद पार्टी अपने कैंपेन को और तेज़ी के साथ अगले चरण में ले जाएगी।
Meanwhile, amid escalating tensions along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, India on Monday unequivocally condemned Pakistan's recent airstrike in Afghanistan's Paktika province. In a statement, India's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal expressed deep concern over reports of airstrikes targeting Afghan civilians, including women and children. New Delhi is aware of the tragic loss of innocent lives in these airstrikes and unequivocally condemns any attack on civilians, Jaiswal stated. Slamming Pakistan, Jaiswal remarked it's a long-standing practice of Pakistan to shift blame onto its neighbors for its internal failure. Tensions have been high along the Durand line, where clashes between Taliban-led Afghanistan and Pakistan have intensified in recent weeks. In December, Pakistan reportedly bombarded 4 locations within Afghanistan, resulting in at least 46 fatalities. In retaliation, Afghan Taliban forces targeted multiple points within Pakistan. The relationship between the two neighbors remains strained, with Pakistan accusing Afghanistan of harboring militants responsible for attacks on its soil, a claim that Afghan Taliban firmly denies. Moving on. The Islamabad High Court on Tuesday in a detailed judgment on the post-arrest bail petition of former Prime Minister Imran Khan in the Toshak Khana case declared that the accused cannot be prosecuted for failing to deposit a Bulgari jewelry set gifted by the Saudi Crown Prince to the state treasury under the rules. In a 14-page verdict, court explained that only the submission of a receipt was mandatory and not the gift itself under the Toshak Khana rules of 2018. While penalties were introduced in 2023 through changes in the rules for non-submission of gifts to the state treasury, the same could not be applied retroactively to actions from prior years, the court ruled. Imran Khan is in jail for over a year now in multiple cases. Meanwhile, activists have expressed alarm after the so-called Prime Minister of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir called for jihad on January 5th, pledging to revive jihadi culture in the region. They warn that such rhetoric promotes extremism, targets progressive voices and endorses terrorism under the guise of the Kashmir issue. A report.
Activists have raised concerns about the situation in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir after the POJK's Prime Minister's call for jihad on January 5 during the observance of the so-called Right to Self-Determination Day. The event, organized by various factions of radical groups, saw the Prime Minister address a crowd and promise that his government would support the revival of jihadi culture in the region. Raising concern, activists have claimed by stoking jihadi culture in POJK, the government is likely to target progressives, liberals, and nationalist secular elements of the society. They have said such declarations made under the guise of advancing the Kashmir issue is a blatant endorsement of terrorism in the name of Islam.
They are being empowered by this POJK Prime Minister. This is the first time in the history of POJK when a sitting Prime Minister has said that the government will facilitate jihadi culture. The government will facilitate jihad in POJK. And the result was that the same evening, jihadi groups, Jihad Council and other Lashkar and all those Mujahid, they all were on the streets of Muzaffarabad and they were celebrating with automatic weapons.
We are deeply concerned and alarmed by the recent public statements made by the so-called Prime Minister of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Chaudhry Anwarul Haq, in which he openly called for initiating jihad. This rhetoric, steeped in extremism, is a direct incitement to violence, posing a significant threat to regional and global peace. Such declarations, made under the guise of advancing the Kashmir issue, represent a dangerous departure from diplomatic norms and a blatant endorsement of terrorism in the name of Islam.
The recent statements by the POJK PM are a grim reminder of Pakistan's unchanged playbook of exploiting religion to justify violence and maintain control. The people of POJK have suffered from decades of exploitation, with their resources plundered and infrastructure neglected. The introduction of jihadi culture will only exacerbate these issues, further isolating the region from peace and progress.
Moving on. A group of British lawmakers on Monday urged England to boycott their Champions Trophy match against Afghanistan next month in protest against the Taliban's crackdown on women. Since the Taliban's return to power in 2021, women's and girls' rights have been severely restricted, including access to education, work, and freedom of movement, while they are also forced to cover their faces and bodies. Women and girls have been barred from sports and gyms, violating the International Cricket Council's ICC rules. The Afghanistan women's cricket team was disbanded, with several members fleeing the country after 2021. A letter signed by over 160 politicians called on England's men's team to take a stand against the treatment of women and girls in Afghanistan, sending a message that such abuses will not be tolerated. In response, ECB Chief Executive Richard Gott said there should be a unified stance among all ICC member nations on Afghanistan's participation in international cricket. He reiterated the ECB's condemnation of the Taliban's actions and its position of not scheduling bilateral matches against Afghanistan. England is set to face Afghanistan on February 26th in Lahore. They previously played against Afghanistan in 2023 50-over Cricket World Cup and the 2022 T20 World Cup. Last year, Australia cancelled a T20 series against Afghanistan over concerns about the worsening human rights situation for women. And Bangladesh's International Criminal Tribunal has issued a second arrest warrant for ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, accusing her of involvement in enforced disappearances during her tenure. The warrant, issued on January 6, also names 11 others, including former military generals and a former police chief. This new arrest warrant, issued on January 6, targets Hasina, who fled to India after her Awami League government was ousted following massive anti-government protests last year. The latest warrant against Hasina is the second arrest warrant issued against her. According to reports, so far the tribunal has recorded 3 cases against the deposed Prime Minister. Bangladesh's interim government, led by Muhammad Yunus, has asked India for the extradition of Hasina. A magnitude of 6.8 earthquake struck the northern foothills of the Himalayas near the Nepal-China border on Tuesday, killing at least 53 people in Tibet and shaking buildings in Nepal, Bhutan and India. According to the China Earthquake Network Center, the quake occurred in the early hours of Tuesday with its epicenter in Tingri, a rural Chinese county known as the northern gateway to the Everest region, at a depth of 10 kilometers. While 53 people were reported dead and 62 injured in Tibet, no casualties were reported from Nepal as of the latest updates. Tremors were felt in Kathmandu, Nepal's capital, located about 400 kilometers away, prompting residents to flee their homes. The quake also jolted Thimphu, the capital of Bhutan, and the northern Indian state of Bihar, which borders Nepal.
म त टोयलेट गथे अनि टोयलेट गर्ने बेलामा त ढोका हल्लिरहेको थियो म भूत ठानेको अनि तल गए मम्मीले भुचाल आयो भन्नुभयो अनि तल आएको मम्मी र म
त सुतिरहेको थिएँ अनि खाट किन हल्लाउँछ भनेर म त बच्चाले खाट हल्ला भनेर घचा किन हल्लाउँछ भन्दै कराउँदै सुतिरहेको आएर खाटको हल्लिएछ पछि त अनि झ्याल पनि यसो हेर्छु झ्याल नि हल्लिन्छ अनि भूकम्प आएछ भनेर बच्चालाई चिच्चाएर कराएर तल आइ डराले
That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.
Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.